Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. My name is Adrian, and one of the most gut-wrenching sights a man can endure is seeing another man in the arms of his wife. It's not just a blow to the heart. It's a wound that tears through your very soul. Worse still, it wasn't just any man. It was my closest friend, Julian, and my wife, Sophia, welcomed it, right in our own bedroom in the heart of Boston. They never saw what was coming next. Here's how it all unfolded, step by step, as the life I knew began to crumble. I met Sophia about 4 years ago, a meeting that wasn't born of chance, but of careful planning by my mother, who's always had a knack for orchestrating life's big moments. She invited Sophia over during one of my rare visits to our family home in Cambridge, and I had no inkling it was a setup. We started talking like two strangers finding common ground, sharing laughs over coffee, discussing books, and debating the merits of Boston's best diners. After a few such encounters, though, the timing felt too orchestrated. When I pieced together that my mom had planted Sophia there, hoping I'd notice her, I couldn't help but chuckle. You got to admire the effort, right? Even knowing it was a scheme, I decided to play along. We exchanged numbers that day, and from there, a connection began to grow. I work as a consultant for Bain & Company, a job that keeps me on the move, weeks at a time, hopping from Chicago to Seattle, then down to Atlanta. The constant travel has always been a hurdle, derailing my past relationships before they could take root. It's tough to build something solid when you're rarely in one place. But with Sophia, it felt different. Her voice on the phone, after a long day on the road, made me think maybe it was time to settle, to have someone waiting for me when I returned to our Boston apartment. When I explained my job, the endless travel, the late-night calls, the pressure, she just smiled and said, "Your mom already gave me the rundown." That got another laugh out of me. My mother had done her homework, and I wasn't upset. It was oddly comforting that Sophia knew the deal from the start. Our relationship took off quickly after that. Whenever I was home, I carved out time to be with her. Long walks along the Charles River, dinners at quaint Italian spots in the North End, quiet nights watching movies on her couch. When I was away, we didn't let the distance silence us. We texted constantly, shared updates about our days, sent photos of the places I visited, and she'd tell me about her life in Boston, her job at a local art gallery, her weekend brunches with friends. After a few months of casual hangouts, our bond deepened. We started dating officially, going on proper dates, meeting each other's families, and learning the quirks that made us who we were. My mom was over the moon, her matchmaking triumph evident in her proud smiles and frequent calls to check in. After a year of dating, I knew Sophia was the one. I proposed on a snowy Boston evening by the public garden, and she said yes with tears in her eyes. I trusted her completely, bolstered by the fact that our families were closely knit, a bond one thought would keep her loyal. Sophia understood my job meant long stretches away, but I promised her I'd cut back soon. For now, I had to grind, travel relentlessly, secure big clients, build our future. She nodded along, supportive, and when I returned, I made it up to her. I brought back gifts, silk scarves from Paris, jewelry from New York, took her to upscale restaurants, and let her indulge in shopping sprees along Newbury Street. Sometimes I'd catch her on the phone with her gallery friends, bragging about how much I pampered her, and it warmed my heart. For those first 3 years, everything felt like a dream. Our third anniversary passed with a lavish dinner at a waterfront spot, and I thought we were unbreakable. But after that, things shifted in ways I couldn't anticipate. A new project at work landed me a lead role in onboarding a major client, a career milestone that demanded more travel and longer hours. I was torn. Sophia and I hadn't been spending enough time together, and I could feel the strain. But the job was temporary, I told myself, and I'd make it up to her with gifts and attention. After a grueling week on the road, I finally came home, determined to reconnect. I planned to spend every free moment with her, hoping to bridge the gap that had quietly grown. At first, it seemed to work, dinners together, late-night talks, but after a couple of weeks, I noticed a change. Sophia seemed distant, her smiles forced, like my presence was an inconvenience. One evening, during a small argument about my latest trip, she looked at me and said, half joking, half serious, When are you leaving again? I kind of missed the quiet. I laughed it off, thinking she needed space, but looking back, that was the first crack in our foundation. One night, exhausted from hours hunched over my laptop in the home office, I stretched my aching back and shuffled down the hall to our bedroom. The door was ajar, and I saw Sophia asleep on her side, the room dark except for the glow of her phone screen, face up on the bed. Thinking I'd lock it for her, I reached over, and that's when I saw it. A thumbnail in her chat caught my eye, curiosity tugging at me. I tapped it open, and my world collapsed. There they were, Sophia and Julian, on our bed. She was nestled against him, her hair spread across the pillow, while he grinned at the camera like it was a victory. His message read, "Can't wait to hold you again." A cold wave crashed over me. My home, my sanctuary, felt violated. I scrolled further, finding more images, then videos, intimate moments recorded in our bedroom. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a desecration of everything I'd built. Fury burned in me, but I held back, knowing an outburst could hurt me later if it went legal. I copied every photo and video to my phone, wiped her screen clean, and set it back. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing, waiting for dawn to decide my next move. The next morning, Sophia was in the kitchen, brewing coffee like nothing had changed. I joined her, voice steady, and asked, "What do you do when I'm gone?" She listed normal things, shows, friends, errands, but I could barely contain the storm inside. Then I looked her in the eye and asked, "Does that include sleeping with Julian?" She froze, then snapped, "What are you implying?" I stayed calm, saying, "Unlock your phone." She refused, her voice icy, but I showed her the evidence from my phone. She stared, silent, then asked where I got it. No denial, no remorse, just damage control. "I'm leaving," I said. "If you're still here in a few days, those files go public." Tears fell, but I walked out, ready to end it all. The moment I stepped out of that Boston apartment, the weight of it all hit me like a freight train. The air felt thick, every breath a struggle as the betrayal replayed in my mind. Sophia and Julian, tangled in our bed, smirking at the camera as if I'd never existed. I couldn't stay there, not with those images burned into my skull, not with the echoes of their laughter haunting the walls. My first instinct was to call my lawyer, a sharp-minded woman named Clara who'd handled my contracts before. I needed a plan, a way to reclaim some control. When I told her what I'd found, photos, videos, the works, she listened in silence, her voice steady as she laid out my options. Living in Massachusetts, Clara explained, gave me a rare legal edge. Unlike most states, we still recognized a law called criminal conversation, which meant I could sue Julian for interfering in my marriage. With the evidence I had, it wasn't just a personal vendetta, it was a case. The idea of holding him accountable lit a fire in me, a chance to make him face the consequences of stealing into my life. I told Clara to start the process, my voice firm despite the ache in my chest. I wasn't letting this slide. Sophia might have broken my trust, but Julian had crossed a line no friend should ever touch. That afternoon, I checked into a hotel downtown, a sterile room with a view of the harbor that did little to calm my nerves. My phone buzzed almost immediately, Sophia's number flashing on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice trembled, a mix of panic and pleading. "Adrian, please, let's talk. I don't want this to get messy. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't go public with those photos." Her words were a dagger, twisting the wound deeper. She wasn't sorry for the act. She was scared of the fallout. I told her I'd think about it, but inside I knew there was no going back. I hung up and called Clara again, updating her on the call. She advised me to draft a separation agreement, something to lock in my terms while keeping the evidence as leverage. I spent the next few hours with her on the phone, hammering out details, property division, no alimony, and a clause ensuring Sophia vacated the apartment by week's end. The next day, I went to work, putting on a mask of professionalism while my world crumbled. My team noticed my distraction, offering quiet support, but I brushed it off. I needed to focus, to channel the pain into something productive. Late that afternoon, Sophia texted again, agreeing to my terms. She'd leave, sign the papers, do anything to avoid the scandal. Part of me wanted to drag it out, to make her suffer as I had, but I didn't have the energy for revenge. I just wanted it over. Still, I made one thing clear to Clara. The lawsuit against Julian stayed. Sophia begged me to drop it during our next call, her voice breaking as she swore it was a mistake, a lapse she'd never repeat. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. Julian had been my confidant for years, the guy I'd trusted with my secrets, my struggles on the road. To know he'd turned that trust into a weapon against me, it was unforgivable. That night, I couldn't sleep. The hotel room felt like a cage, the hum of the air conditioner a mocking reminder of the silence I'd once shared with Sophia. I thought back to the early days, her laughter as we explored Boston's hidden gems, the way she'd wait up for me with a warm meal after a late flight. How had it soured so fast? I scrolled through old messages, looking for signs I'd missed, but found only her sweetness, her promises. It made the betrayal sting worse, like a poison seeping into every memory. I wonder how long it had been going on. Weeks? Months? Had they laughed about me behind my back, planning their next rendezvous in my absence? The next morning, I met Clara at her office to sign the separation papers. She handed me a stack of documents, her expression grim but resolute. "You're doing the right thing," she said. "This gives you a clean break." I nodded, signing my name with a hand that trembled slightly. As I left, my phone buzzed again, this time a message from my mother. She'd heard rumors, pieced together enough to know something was wrong. I drove to her house in Cambridge, dreading the conversation. When I told her everything, her face crumpled. "I only wanted you to have someone," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "I thought Sophia was perfect because of our family ties. I'm so sorry, Adrian." Her guilt cut deep. She'd meant well, matchmaking with the best intentions, but it had led me to this pain. I reassured her it wasn't her fault, though the words felt hollow. Back at the hotel, I sat with my thoughts, the lawsuit against Julian looming like a storm on the horizon. I knew it wouldn't heal the wound, but it might give me closure. Sophia's departure from the apartment was scheduled for the next day, and I planned to be there to watch her leave with my own eyes. But as I prepared, a new question gnawed at me. What if there was more I didn't know? What if Julian wasn't the only one? The thought sent a chill through me, pushing me to dig deeper. I decided to check her phone records, her social media, anything to uncover the full extent of the betrayal. Little did I know, the truth I'd find would shake me even more. The morning Sophia was set to leave the apartment, I woke early, the clock ticking toward 11:02 a.m. Eastern European Summer Time, though my mind was still anchored in Boston time, where it was 4:02 a.m. The exhaustion clung to me, but I couldn't stay in that hotel room any longer. I needed to see this through, to watch her walk out with my own eyes. I drove back to our place, the streets of Boston quiet under a gray sky, mirroring the heaviness in my chest. When I arrived, her car was already packed, suitcases stacked haphazardly in the trunk. She stood by the door, eyes red but defiant, clutching a box of personal items. We didn't speak much. Her signing the papers was a formality, a silent agreement to end it. As she drove off, I felt a flicker of relief, but it was drowned by the lingering questions. What else had she hidden? Back inside, the apartment felt alien, the air thick with memories I couldn't escape. I sat on the couch, her absence a void, and pulled out my laptop. The decision to dig deeper had taken root the night before, and now it was time to act. I started with her phone records, which Clara had helped me access through legal channels. The call logs revealed a pattern, frequent late-night conversations with Julian stretching back months, even during times I thought we were solid. But there were other numbers too, unfamiliar ones, popping up more often in the last 6 months. My stomach churned as I cross-referenced them with her social media. One number led to a profile I recognized, a coworker of hers from a gallery, a man named Theo who'd always been overly friendly at our dinners. The betrayal widened, a web I hadn't anticipated. I dug into her messages next, using a backup I'd quietly synced before she left. The chats with Julian were damning. Plans to meet, excuses she'd fed me about girls' nights that were anything but. But Theo's messages were a shock. They started innocently. Work talk, art critiques, but soon turned flirty, then explicit. Photos of her in lingerie, sent from our bathroom mirror, timestamps matching nights I was in Chicago. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just Julian. Sophia had been playing a game, juggling multiple affairs under my nose. I felt sick, the room spinning as I pieced it together. How had I missed it? The late responses, the excuses, the way she'd sometimes seemed distracted. They all made sense now. I called Clara again, my voice shaking as I relayed the new evidence. She was stunned but pragmatic. "This strengthens your case against Julian," she said, "but Theo changes things. You could pursue him too, though it'll complicate the legal fight." I told her to focus on Julian for now, his betrayal cut deepest, but to keep Theo on the radar. The thought of dragging more people into court exhausted me, yet I couldn't let it go. I needed the truth laid bare. That afternoon, I drove to the gallery, determined to confront Theo. He was there, arranging a new exhibit, and when he saw me, his face paled. "We need to talk," I said, my tone low but firm. He stammered, denying everything at first, but when I showed him the messages, he crumbled. "It was just a fling," he muttered. "She said you were never around." The excuse fueled my anger, but I walked away, letting Clara handle the rest. Back home, I couldn't shake the images, Sophia with Julian, with Theo in our space. I started packing her things, boxing up clothes and trinkets, anything to erase her presence. In a drawer, I found a journal, its pages filled with her handwriting. Curiosity drove me to read, and what I found was a confession of sorts. Entries detailing her loneliness, her resentment toward my job, and her decision to seek comfort elsewhere. "Adrian's gone so much," one line read. "I deserve more than waiting." The words stung, but they also clarified her mindset. She justified it, turned my absence into her excuse. Yet, it didn't absolve her. I tossed the journal into the box, my hands trembling. That night, my phone rang, Julian's number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Adrian, man, I'm sorry," he started, his voice thick. "It just happened. I didn't mean to." I cut him off. "Save it. You'll hear from my lawyer." He tried to explain, blaming Sophia, but I hung up, the sound of his voice a reminder of the trust I'd lost. The lawsuit was moving forward, Clara assured me the next day, with a court date set for next month. But the deeper I dug, the more I wondered, was this about justice, or was I chasing a pain I couldn't outrun? My mother called again, offering to come stay, but I declined. I needed to face this alone, to rebuild from the ashes. As I sat in the empty apartment, a new plan formed. I'd sell the place, start fresh somewhere new, maybe Portland, where the pace was slower. But first, I had to see the lawsuit through, to confront Julian in court and hear his excuses firsthand. The thought of it kept me going, a spark of resolve amid the wreckage. Yet a nagging doubt lingered. What if Sophia reached out again, with more lies or tears? And what if the court battle revealed even darker secrets I wasn't ready to face? The weeks leading up to the court date crawled by, each day a battle against the ghosts in my Boston apartment. It was now 11:03 a.m. Eastern European Summertime on Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, though my mind stayed rooted in the gray mornings of Massachusetts, where the trial loomed just days away. I'd sold the apartment, the sale closing last week, and moved into a temporary rental, a stark, unfurnished place that felt like a blank slate. Packing up had been cathartic, every box of Sophia's things shipped to her new address, a small victory in reclaiming my space. But the legal fight with Julian kept the wound fresh, a constant reminder of the trust he'd shattered. Clara had been relentless, building a case that painted Julian as the architect of my marital collapse. The evidence, photos, videos, messages, was airtight, and she'd even subpoenaed Theo's records, though we weren't pursuing him yet. The night before the trial, I barely slept, rehearsing my testimony in my head. I knew Julian would be there, his lawyer spinning excuses, and the thought of facing him turned my stomach. When the morning arrived, I dressed in a suit that felt too tight, my reflection showing a man I hardly recognized, hollow-eyed, determined. Clara met me outside the courthouse, her briefcase heavy with documents, her nod giving me a sliver of confidence. The courtroom was cold, the wooden benches hard under me as I waited. Julian sat across the aisle, avoiding my gaze, his lawyer whispering in his ear. When the judge called the session to order, Clara stood first, laying out the case with precision, how Julian had exploited my friendship, my absence, to seduce Sophia. She presented the evidence, each image and video projected on a screen, and I forced myself to watch, my hands clenched. Julian's lawyer countered, claiming it was consensual, that Sophia had initiated it, but the judge's frown suggested skepticism. It was my turn. I took the stand, my voice steady as I recounted the night I found the truth, the shock, the betrayal, the violation of my home. The room was silent, and for a moment, I locked eyes with Julian. His shame was palpable, but didn't ease the ache. Julian's testimony followed, a weak defense of, "It just happened and I didn't mean to hurt you." His lawyer tried to shift blame to Sophia, arguing her loneliness drove it, but Clara dismantled that with phone records, showing his pursuit began months before I noticed any change. The judge recessed for deliberation, and I stepped outside, the June air warm against my skin. Clara joined me, optimistic but cautious. "It's strong," she said, "but he might settle to avoid a ruling." I nodded, unsure if I wanted closure or vengeance. Hours later, the judge returned, ruling in my favor. Julian was liable for criminal conversation, ordered to pay damages. The amount was significant, but it felt hollow. Money couldn't mend the trust he'd broken. Outside, Julian approached, his face pale. "I'm sorry, Adrian," he muttered. "I'll pay, but I hope you can move on." I didn't respond, walking away as his words dissolved into the city noise. Back at the rental, I sat with the verdict, the check from Julian's payment in hand. It was a start, but the emptiness lingered. Sophia hadn't contacted me since the apartment handover, and I wondered if she'd moved on too, perhaps with Theo or someone new. The thought fueled a new resolve. I'd use the money to relocate to Portland as planned and build a life free of their shadows. That night, I started researching Portland, housing, jobs, a fresh start. But as I scrolled, an email pinged in Sophia's address. My heart raced as I opened it. "Adrian, I know I have no right, but I need to explain. It wasn't just Julian. There were others. I was lost, and I'm sorry. Please don't hate me forever." The confession stunned me, a floodgate of new pain. Others? How many? The journal entries flashed in my mind, her loneliness an excuse I now saw as a lie. I called Clara, who advised against responding, but suggested documenting it for any future claims. I sat there, the email burning on my screen, torn between rage and a strange pity. The next day, I booked a flight to Portland, deciding to leave Boston behind for good. But the email gnawed at me. Sophia's admission hinted at a deeper web, one I might never untangle. I packed a box of essentials, the check tucked inside, and wondered if moving would silence the questions. As I locked the rental door, a final thought struck. What if she reached out again, with more truths or pleas? And could I ever trust again after this? The flight to Portland landed at 3:17 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on June 10th, 2025, the West Coast air crisp and unfamiliar as I stepped onto the tarmac. The move felt like shedding a skin, Boston's betrayal left behind, the check from Julian's settlement burning a hole in my wallet. I'd rented a small house near the Willamette River, its wooden floors and wide windows a stark contrast to the urban cage I'd escaped. Unpacking was slow, each item a reminder of the life I'd rebuilt from ashes, but the space felt like mine alone. The court victory, Sophia's email, the move, it all pointed to a fresh start, yet the past clung like damp fog. The first week, I focused on settling in, finding a local coffee shop, exploring trails, applying for consulting gigs with firms less demanding than Bain. The slower pace suited me, the quiet letting me breathe without the weight of suspicion. But Sophia's email haunted me. There were others, she'd written, and the ambiguity fueled restless nights. I hadn't replied, following Clara's advice, but the curiosity gnawed. One evening, I called her, my voice steady despite the tremor inside. She answered, hesitant, and spilled more. Two others besides Julian and Theo, names I didn't know, flings born of her need for connection. Each word was a stab, but it also freed me. Her confession was her burden now, not mine. Word came through a remote role with a Portland-based startup, flexible hours that promised stability. I threw myself into it, the rhythm grounding me. One Saturday, I met a woman at the coffee shop, Elena, an artist with a warm laugh and no ties to my past. We talked for hours, her stories of local galleries a balm to my scars. It wasn't love yet, just a spark, but it hinted at healing. Still, trust was a wall I wasn't ready to lower. I kept her at arm's length, testing my instincts, wary of the red flags I'd ignored before. Months passed, and Portland's seasons shifted, rainy falls giving way to crisp winters. The lawsuit money funded a small studio, a space to think, to paint with Elena's guidance. One night, another email from Sophia arrived, begging forgiveness, offering details of her therapy. I deleted it unread, the act of final cut. My mother visited. Her guilt faded into pride at my resilience. "You're stronger than I thought," she said, and I felt it too. The pain dulled, replaced by a cautious hope. But the past wasn't done. A letter came from Clara. Julian had appealed, claiming financial hardship, delaying the damages. It reignited my anger, but I signed the papers to fight it, unwilling to let him off. Elena noticed my mood, asking gently about my past. I shared pieces, the betrayal, the move, omitting names. Her empathy surprised me, her lack of judgment a test I passed. We grew closer, dinners turning to late talks, and I began to believe in second chances. One spring day, standing by the river, I realized the weight was gone. The court battle would resolve, Sophia's shadow would fade, and Portland was home. Yet, a question lingered. Could I fully let go, or would the echoes of trust lost shape my future? As Elena joined me, her hand brushing mine, I decided to find out.